Welcome to NEXTGames Elder Scrolls Online Dungeon Series. This video covering Darkshade Caverns I on the normal difficulty solo, using Nightblade. Now this video will simply cover an entire battle example of the Darkshade Caverns I run, unnormal, with commentary, during the bosses and at the beginning and end of the run. Now I don't play my Nightblade often, but I decided it was time to dust him off and use him to actually do some scouting runs on the normal difficulty for dungeons that I intend on defeating on the veteran difficulty with my Dragon Knight. Now in regards to gearing for this run, he's just lightly geared with a Celestrisk set, 4 parts of the Hunding's Rage, and 5 parts of the Defiler's Belt set. I also have a Ring of the Pale Order, which will basically be keeping me alive since I won't be using a companion on this run. Now this is not a high DPS set by any stretch of the imagination, but it definitely does do a good job dealing with all of the random fodder that you will encounter in dungeons such as Darkshade Caverns. I will go ahead and put the timestamps of the bosses up there in the upper left hand corner, so if you've come here for a particular boss that you're struggling with while you're going through the dungeon, go ahead and skip to that point in the run if you need to. Otherwise, enjoy the first part of this run until we get to the first boss.
Kill them! Light it up!
Set it ablaze!
Spread out! What's this? More fodder for the clamor? Think you could make fools of us, Sartri? Get
Here we are at the first boss, Head Shepard Naloran. This is by far the easiest boss of the dungeon. The most challenging part of this fight is going to be the adds that you'll need to contend with at the very start. First, start by taking out the workers, and then work on taking out the menders. When there's only Naloran left, go ahead and continue to pound in the damage. Now you'll notice Naloran has a very low hit point pool, and that is compensated by Naloran having the ability to heal themselves. So know that usually they will heal themselves to full health once they start getting low on health. This is okay and just part of the run. Just continue to pound away on her and she should be dead relatively soon. Her only nasty ability is a flame damage ability that can kind of do AoE damage to everyone, but it really doesn't do that much damage, so it's not much risk in this fight as long as you have some way to continually heal yourself. I don't happen to have an interrupt ability slotted right now, but if you do, go ahead and try and interrupt her healing ability, and it may save you some time on this boss. That's going to be it for this one. We'll talk again at the beginning of the second boss, who's going to be Foreman Lothan.
Maybe those eggs down there are in better shape. Do me a favor and take care of the undesirables down there. I'll stay here and supervise. Belongs to House Celos. You are intruders and will be...
Now here we are at the next boss, Foreman Lothan, which is actually one of the more challenging bosses in this dungeon. Now there are 3 mechanics to this fight. Now the first thing you need to look out for is you will periodically summon 6 Quama adds from somewhere in the room. Now these should be dispatched quickly with your AoE abilities, hopefully while still getting damage in to the boss. The next thing you need to look out for is the most dangerous ability he can use, which is an ability which will have a small red circle growing around him in size, and once it gets to about a 3-foot radius around him, it will explode, stunning anyone caught inside of it. You just saw it right there. Now obviously the easiest way to avoid this is to simply roll dodge backwards once you start seeing that red circle grow, and you can avoid this damage and being knocked down. Now I will say on this normal difficulty it really doesn't do that much damage, so you don't need to concern yourself too much with it, but if you are practicing for veteran difficulty, you definitely want to get the hang of this mechanic, as on the veteran difficulty this will do substantial damage. The last ability that can be used is you will see little green poison pools appear around your battle arena. Just make sure you stay outside of these red circles with the green poison inside, as if you do go inside, you will start to take poison damage, which can add up. Otherwise, this is a fairly straightforward fight. Enjoy the rest of it, and we'll talk at the beginning of the third boss, who's going to be the Hivelord. This brings us to the Hivelord, the third boss in this dungeon. Now there are several mechanics to this one as well. The main threat is from this massive AoE attack he can do where he'll start slamming his fist on the ground. Now when this starts, it's actually not going to do too much damage, but the damage will continue in pulses, and if you just stay inside of that red circle, you can potentially die. Now from time to time he's also going to summon many Kwama adds, like he just did right there, that you're going to need to deal with, which are AoE abilities, so make sure you take care of them. Now occasionally he will also cast a conal ability where he'll slam his fist down and do damage in a conal formation in front of him. Due to this, make sure that you always have him facing away from your companion or other party members if you are tanking. The final ability he can do is that if you start getting at distance from him, he will oftentimes jump all the way to you and inflict strong physical damage as he lands. So make sure that you keep this in mind if you are a ranged damage dealer. That should be it for taking on this one. Now he has a lot of hit points, so this fight can take a while, but otherwise it's fairly straightforward. We'll talk again at the beginning of the fourth boss, which is right after this one. This brings us to the fourth boss, and another quite easy one, the Cavern Patriarch. Now on this normal difficulty, simply just spam in as much damage as you can. The only real threat here is they will plant a poison standard on the ground, which will deal a bit of poison damage to anyone in the range. You can see it right there, but really know that as long as you have some way of healing yourself, you can heal yourself right through it. That's going to be pretty much it for this easy boss. We'll talk again at the beginning of the fifth boss, which is right after this one, and called Cutting Sphere. This brings us to the 5th boss of the dungeon and the 3rd mini-boss, the Cutting Sphere. Now this one is fairly straightforward. Simply take care of the Dwarven Spider adds first and foremost. After they're dealt with, simply getting as much damage as you can as quickly as you can to the Cutting Sphere. Now when it starts doing that rotating attack that you see there, you can usually just cure your way through it, but if you can't cure your way through it, make sure you step out of that radius until it's finished. Other than that, this fight is fairly straightforward. It's just a quick run right after this fight to get to the final boss of the dungeon. We'll talk again then. Here we are at the 6th and final boss of this dungeon, the Sentinel of Cougars. Now there are 4 main attacks you need to look out for when taking on this Sentinel. The first is sometimes he will just charge after you doing a spinning attack. When he does this, just kite him around the arena while still trying to get in your damage. You can see that attack right here. Now he also has access to an attack where he will do a large amount of damage in a frontal cone. You can usually see him charging up this attack for a brief second before he uses it. If he uses this attack, you want to make sure that you have him facing away from any party members or your companions. Now the 3rd attack is the one that you're seeing right here, which is where he'll start firing shots into the air and targeting one person that will have a quickly expanding red circle from underneath them. Just make sure you're continually moving, and this is an easy enough ability to avoid. Now towards the end of the fight, he's going to summon 3 to 4 Dwarven Spiders around this arena that have green circles around them. All you need to do is make sure that you keep him away from these circles, because if the Sentinel ends up going inside of them, it's actually going to heal him. Now it's normally quite easy to avoid these circles by just staying in the center of this battle zone, but just keep in mind that if you do start going to the corners and the sides, he can at times encounter these green bubbles and it can heal him a fair amount. That's going to be it for how to take on this boss. We'll talk again at the end of the run. That's going to be it for how to take on Darkshade Caverns I on the normal difficulty. That was actually a lot of fun. This should be a fairly easy dungeon for most newer players to take on. Next week, I will release a video showing how to take on this dungeon on the veteran difficulty with my Dragon Knight. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Stay safe and stay healthy out there.